Hello and welcome, my friends, to the Zenpreneur podcast. This is your host, Mario Lanzarotti, and today I have a very surprising and blissful guest. His name is Terry Kim, and I love to be transparent on this podcast. When him and I first connected today, I was a bit confused because I lost my documentation for whatever reason, didn't come through. And then I asked him to give me a bit of insight into who he is, and all of a sudden, he opened up from the perspective of being a successful serial entrepreneur, a household name in the tech space. He told me that he's also a breathwork master, that he's a Qigong master, that he is inside men's work, that he has been venturing deep into his own psyche, into his own spirit, and combining the best of both worlds. And today, he is with us. Mr. Terry Kim, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Mario, for having me. It's an honor, and I'm excited to, just discuss whatever comes up.
Terry, I want to know. So, you told me when we started the conversation that you had an awakening as you were going through your entrepreneurial journey. Something happened and it sparked the transformation that we get to see today. So, I'd love for you to speak a little bit into this awakening process.
Yeah, I think the awakening process from a spiritual level, is quite different from just all the origin stories that I've heard, even in the Sacred Sons container. So
Hmm.
it's quite fascinating. And my awakening wasn't like a gradual awakening. It was a pretty brutal awakening, and it was 5 years ago. And me and my co-founder, we had just raised like 6 months ago our seed round of 2.1 million coming out of Y Combinator, and we ended up burning through that cash so fast. We only had 5 months runway left at 1.1 million in the bank, with like a
Wow.
200K burn with the big team. And as you know, probably in the tech startup space, it's all about innovation. It's about pivoting and being flexible and whatnot. And I was just really confident, like, that we were going to make it through somehow, and just hope for infinite possibilities to occur. But it was pretty brutal at that time. We were working actually 80, 100-hour work weeks. If you can imagine that,
Wow.
it's pretty brutal and pretty taxing when you have family as well. And we were in the heart of Silicon Valley in Cupertino, where Apple started. And so I decided on my 40th birthday, I was like, hey, I like to plan a camping trip. And we ended up going deep into the forest of the Big Basin, where they have the giant redwood trees. And that's inside that forest is when I had a big spiritual awakening. And it was pretty pretty insane, I would say, because through that process of that awakening, my consciousness just completely expanded, and and I had a new lens of what the world could be, and really connected back to, I would say I returned home, you know,
Hmm.
and been able to just connect with my spirit, and to be able to, build the business through that lens. And from that deep spiritual awakening that happened in the forest, I got into meditation, I got into yoga. Like, there's just so many things that I started doing that I never did before. From that time, I've never meditated before, which is profound tool now that I use on a daily basis. And from that, we ended up raising a large Series A. I was out in the market, probably that happened in September, and then October, November, 2 months. We only had 4 months of runway left, and all my mentors told me the market's bad. You guys don't have enough revenue. I think we were like at 2 million like gross revenue. I forget the actual net revenue, but we were unprofitable, and they said you need to just heads down, build the company, get it profitable, and then go raise your Series A. And I just followed my heart, because we were on a mission. This company I'm still running, it's our 8th year. It's called NGT Academy, where we take people from zero to engineer in just 4 months versus 4 years of college. And my burning desire to start this company was to really provide the next generation of young men an alternative to college, and that you don't have to be drowned in massive student loan debt. and credit card debt to launch your career. So I truly believed in the mission, and we found the right investor. And long story short, we ended up raising the largest Series A round that I couldn't even imagine possible, which was a $15 million Series A. And that was in 2019, 2 months after my awakening. And so I would just say that uh, as you awaken, infinite possibilities can occur and miracles can happen. And it's been a wild journey, let's say, since then.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And when it comes to my audience, there are some people who will clearly understand what you say when you refer to awakening, and some people may not yet be quite there. So I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit further on what you mean when you say awaken.
Yes. So we have this lower self within us and a higher self. It's this duality we live in. So we're in, let's say planet Earth, a three-dimensional reality, and we only operate with our five senses, right? And what we don't know is that there there are dimensions beyond this world. So if you believe in a higher power, a creator, source, God, whatever religion path you follow to find yourself back to spirit, or if you're not religious, you could still be a spirit. You have to understand you're still a spiritual being, embodied into this body. And so when I say awaken, awakening is awakening to the illusion, to the veils being lifted. And
Mm.
some forms of awakening can happen when we're in deep trauma or like we're in rock bottom. So think about an alcoholic that goes through that 12-step process. It's a beautiful process when they completely detox off alcohol. That is a spiritual awakening because they can connect back to their soul and detox from these substances. So I see a lot of men awaken just through that process alone, or they maybe awaken through some plant medicine, from ayahuasca to peyote to psilocybin. You can hear a lot of stories through where they look for meaning in life and they go to a retreat and they discover some plant medicine and they awaken that way as well. Another way someone can awaken is just their relationship with God and putting in the work daily and getting closer and drowning out the outside world and to go within. So when I say awaken, is the awakening happens within, and then your outer world just completely shifts into a different vibration, a different frequency. And that's the way I would explain it best in my words.
Yeah. I love hearing this, especially because you are a serial entrepreneur and because a lot of people look at what you just said from the lens of this is all woo woo, this is all fluff. This stuff doesn't work, or why do I even need it? And so I'd love for you to speak a little bit into what did you notice shifted after your awakening process when it comes to the way that you handle and grow your business, to the when it comes to the practical applications of being an entrepreneur.
So I would say since my awakening, and it's not just like you awaken once and the journey stops. I think the awakening is a start, and there's depth and layers to the awakening. But the biggest
Mm.
shift that happened for me was the frequency shift. You're on a different plane. And if you believe in parallel realities, that infinite possibilities are in the eternal now, right? So like Dr. Joe Dispenser says it great, right? If we're living in the past, we are in depression, and I've been there, right? Being super depressed, like regretting all the past mistakes and being in that sorrow, that's living in the past. And a lot of men do that. And we beat ourselves up for that. And we don't realize the beauty of life is in this present moment when I can bring my entire body and my mind into this current moment and just be present for the
Mm.
the miracles that can happen. And so it's a shift in frequency. And Dr. Joe also says that if you're living in the future, you're living in anxiety, right? You're worrying about things that might or may not even occur. And so how bizarre is that, that we create all this in our mind? So the beautiful thing is that if we live into the present moment, that's where the magic happens.
Hmm. What I'm drawing from that is two very, very relevant conversations that affect so many entrepreneurs: depression and anxiety. And what you have shared is that as you awaken, as you root yourself much more deeply in the present moment, you have let go of the depression and the anxiety, and maybe not altogether completely, but from what I'm hearing, your degree of agency on how you handle that and how you move through it has significantly increased.
Absolutely. Because you start understanding that the ego is constructed from the mind and your desires. So when we attach to that, we keep feeding the ego, whether it's trauma or personal desires, whether it's vibrating on the lower chakras. And so when we're vibrating on the lower chakras and we can't ascend to the heart chakra and open our hearts, what that essentially does is it gets us stuck in the lower realms of reality, which is the most least resistance. It's the easiest path constantly drink and not admit that you're an alcoholic, or to constantly be in grief or in trauma and not being able to release that. And we call that, shadow work in the men's world, or even in the women's world, right? Being able to understand that is freedom, essentially. That the ego is constructed, that the subconscious has been programmed up to the age of 7. So it's like, ask yourself, like, what are the beliefs that is limiting me to reach my highest self, my highest potential? Because ultimately, you want to ascend to the higher self version of you that connects with the heart and not the ego.
You talk a lot about men. It seems like you have a personal dedication to helping men. And you also dropped in the beginning Sacred Sons. For those of you that don't know what Sacred Sons is, Sacred Sons is probably I think by now, the largest men's work container in the world. I have personally worked with them. I can vouch for them. They're absolutely phenomenal. And Terry has done extensive work with them. So I would love for you to speak into what role do men in particular play for you in life in terms of your mission, and then maybe if you could also speak into men's work in particular, what kind of role that plays in your own development.
Yeah, I think I can summarize it as best is that what I realized and what God called me, God called me into this container was really that brotherhood is medicine. And so I was seeking brotherhood. Um, you know, uh, Building multiple businesses. I have a very small circle. I can count my friends with one hand, and that's how limited my circle is. And actually an introvert. Um, you know, um, and so, like, men's work was something that it was kind of unknown to me at the time. And um, Albert, we connected, and he reached out, and we connected, and it was just like a vibrational match. So when you're vibrating at a certain frequency, it's like a radio tuner. Like you will find people, places, events that tune into that frequency, and they start showing up in your life. And sometimes we wonder, like, why are these people getting out of my life? And what you realize is that, like, it's like God making room for you to experience a different reality. And it's a beautiful thing when you let go, I would say, and surrender to the unknown. And so men's work has been tremendous for me in my healing journey, whether it's childhood drama that I didn't even know I was holding on to, that gets released through the frequency of the container. So it's a series of prompts. It's being in flow. It's allowing spirit to come into the container and do the magic. And so, as leaders of any men's work container, it's about opening ourselves up, to spirit, and just flowing with what magic is about to occur. So nothing is scripted inside Sacred Sons. None of the containers, none of it's all like in flow. And so I've had some tremendous breakthroughs in these containers, and also be able to lead men, and to, you know, be compassionate, to have empathy. And as we go through our own healing journey process, there's just so many nuggets and insights and experiences that we can share, that can help waken up the brothers to another level of consciousness, because from healing comes awakening, and deeper levels of healing allows us to finally get to, you know, where we feel complete and we feel whole. And from that,
Mm.
what I consider a stage one process of the spiritual awakening is that self-realization. Once you self-realize, there's multiple layers to this, and there's veils, illusions, limiting beliefs, trauma. There's just so much work to do. But once you break through that, I believe that the second stage of your awakening, spiritual awakening process, is the self-actualization. And the self-actualization is actualizing your gifts from God and being able to use that in a way that is not ego driven, but mission driven and heart led driven. And from that, you can create a newer reality that's authentic, and just such a beautiful place to be at. And then if you are a businessman, you are an entrepreneur, it allows you to create, things that just flow through you, and you'll feel that you just know it in your heart, like you are on the right path, or you are doing the right things. And so I'm just deeply passionate about not only helping young men get into amazing careers, if that's a life they want to live. I also have a consulting tech startup secrets container where I help first time founders step into, the tech startup world more consciously. And then um, you know, well, I would say a year and a half ago, so 2022 summer, I had another level of awakening that happened, and I was able to birth my stealth startup. Now it's not stealth no more, but Om Sleep was born from that level of consciousness, at that new frequency, at that new vibration. And so if I didn't do the men's work or the spiritual path, I would have never been able to tap into these new ideas, and bring them to life as an entrepreneur.
Mm. I love that. There's so many facets to what you just brought forward in terms of why this work is so important, and how it affects men. And I'm curious to hear from your perspective, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that men face today that aren't necessarily addressed in the way that you think they should?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we can go in so many directions with this question, but what comes to heart is men have been astrayed. So we live in a society that's changed. From just 25 years ago, I was in Korea, and the culture, and I've seen the kind of evolution of the American culture as American, as a first generation Korean American, that men follow false idols, I would say, and they have a veil lifted over them. So it's easy to access, pretty girls online, OnlyFans, Pornhub, alcohol, all these substances and desires that are attached to the lower chakras, keeps them in a cage. And it's just unfortunate that men worship these idols. And when I say idols, there's heavy influencers, right? From Andrew Tate to Iman Ghazi's of the worlds, that are on YouTube or Instagram flashing heavy materialism. And it's not that you can't build wealth or have an abundance mindset, and that's not what I'm saying. But the point is that when you follow, the wrong influencers that portray this masculine energy, and then they flash the supercars and the girls and the parties and the drinking, like that is not a way to ascend, at least spiritually. And so I think young men are not able to think for themselves, not able to connect to their hearts, not able to understand that all the material wealth you chase is not going to actually bring you fulfillment. And
Mm.
it's sad that entrepreneurs chase that. And once they have that, they realize, once you buy the Lamborghini, or buy the penthouse or the condo in Miami, that it is not true fulfillment. And I can tell you that by firsthand speaking with these entrepreneurs, that there's this emptiness that comes with that because they've chased the wrong things, right? And so there's a better way to build wealth and to self mastery and to really find fulfillment and to tap into that masculine energy in a divine way.
I love this. And I agree with you so much. I see there is a vast community of hungry young, especially young males that are desperately looking for something to attach themselves to, because this world that we live in is so diverse in opinion and in choice. I mean, I had this with a client of mine in the past, where we were dealing with his porn consumption, and I challenged him to to get this complete and to be real about it with his wife. And what we discovered in that conversation is that there's this illusion, like you talk about, this veil, that you have this infinite number of choices. Like you can go on a Pornhub or whatever thing you're going on, and you get this idea that you are somehow the one that can choose anyone. But in reality, when you go out, there is a massive social anxiety. There's a social awkwardness to it. There's a lack of being able to communicate who you are, what values you represent. Most men, I would say, don't even really understand their own values. And so we end up in this world where men are so easily manipulated, just like you said, by these quote unquote lower desires. And so I'm wondering, what would you say to somebody who's listening, is like, yeah, man, I get that, and I'm right there. What would be like the next few steps to get out of that place?
One is, you have to come to a point where you can acknowledge that it's defiling women, right? Like imagine if you had a daughter,
Mm.
right? And so like I have three daughters, and so I think it makes it easier for me at one point where I realized through my awakening. So I've had porn addiction throughout, my younger years, but after my awakening, I never touched porn again. And how was that? It was a frequency shift. It was, you know, and it's an acknowledgement, like you understand that it is defiling women. It is tapping into a lower level of consciousness, and you are
Yeah.
trying to release, and you are trying to um, just do something for quick pleasure, versus understanding that even your semen is very sacred, and all the every time you have whether it's porn or one night stands, you are still giving that energy to that, even if it's on the screen. You're giving your energy to that interaction, right? Even if it's virtual, it doesn't matter. It's all happening in the mind. The mind doesn't know if it's real sex or you are ejaculating off a screen. So when you realize that, like, that's what men have to realize, that that's an
Mm.
energy transfer. It doesn't matter because it's still happening in the mind. And what you're doing is you're getting addicted to pleasures like that in a lower frequency that will never allow you to reach higher levels of consciousness when you're in that state of mind. So it's really detoxing the mind. And so, like, part of getting back to yourself, because it's like that's not you, that's not your authentic you. And
Mm.
so, like, do you want to be a man that is, needing pleasure constantly through porn? And if you do, you will never attract the woman of your dreams, a woman that is divine, that brings in the feminine, that can support you, can build a long-lasting relationship. A divine sacred union is what we call it. Albert has a great new mission to talk about the sacred union, the sacred container of masculine, feminine, and then you build a family from that foundation. And you can never get to that state if you're stuck on porn, and if you're stuck on in those lower vibrations again, you will never also find the woman that you probably want to seek at one point
Mm.
of time in your career. So the sooner you can get off of that, you will be able to vibrate at a different frequency that it could attract the woman that you desire. Because if you're in that lower realm, what's going to happen is, and I'm not saying this happen all the time, but most likely you're going to be in a horrible relationship. You might even be in a relationship where you know your woman is also cheating on you and you don't even know it, but it's that vibration, that frequency you're on, and you can't, blame her for that. You're bringing that into your reality, and that's what men don't realize. And once you can find freedom from that and move into a different, higher level of consciousness, then you will be able to attract a woman that truly, meets your desires.
Mm. Some very, very important things that I want to underpin with what you were just saying. One, the first step to moving out of a low place is to be real with yourself, is to actually take a look and say, okay, yeah, I am experiencing an addiction to porn. It's happening. It's in my life. It's controlling me. It's running the show. And to get face to face with that. And the second step is, I mean, you didn't really mention it that way, but one of the second steps that I was going to ask you is like, because you rightfully say it's these quick dopamine hits, it's these quick pleasure seeking. Now, the human mind will want to replace it with something, because if you just remove it, then now there's a void, there's an emptiness. So, what would you say is a healthy way to replacing that kick that you get from watching porn, or even food, like food consumption that goes into those quick insulin spikes and then drops down
Yep.
again?
Exactly. So, yeah, some great points is to realize that, like, you know, one tool men can use is fasting. So I am just going on about a 36-hour water fast right now. Once
Nice.
you detox from foods, you can connect back with spirit, and in stillness and meditation, you can get downloads, and it's a beautiful place to be. So I highly recommend water fasting for up to 3 days if you really want to connect back with spirit and say, F this, I'm gonna go ahead and find myself again. I want to create a new reality. I'm done with this life of porn
Mm-hmm.
addiction, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, defiling women, like all of it, right? Like I am sick of it. And that's when, men's come into these beautiful, EMX containers, whether they're addicted to these substances or have a lot of trauma, or just anger and frustration. That's a step one, is raising your hand and saying, I need help, and finding a men's container where it can facilitate that process. And I forget the original question, because I wanted to send that tool, or share that tool,
Mm-hmm.
around that. But
Replacing pleasure seeking,
yes,
these quick spikes.
pleasure, the dopamine. So yes, the porn is super addictive, but once we realize that, when we let go of that, it creates this prana or chi energy. So when you release, you're releasing all your energy, believe it or not, and it's an energy exchange, like I mentioned. And it happens in the astrals, like you don't see it, but it's happening. And so all those encounters is not ideal for men. And when men sleep with multiple women, you are intertwining your energies. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
cosmic relationship, the bond, and you need to break from that, and you need to heal from that. And so how men can uh, replace that is to hold that energy. And when you hold that energy can be used for huge bursts of creativity, motivation. You can tap into that G and go into deep meditation or breath work. And so it creates an energy, a force field so powerful. And it creates this discipline, and you'll feel it as soon as you get off these addictions and replace it with creative work, journaling, you know, maybe you're into martial arts and you want to do jiu-jitsu or tai chi or kung fu. Like it allows you to tap into other activities that you wouldn't be able to tap into, like fully. But that's how you would replace it. You would find these activities, blocks of time, and it will allow you to go into flow. And that's what men need. Men need purpose. Men need meaning. And that's the first, and second step, I would say, is get off the addictions and replace that and go into, pockets of creativity and flow and activities that can replace that and keep you busy otherwise.
Mm. And to confirm that, reflecting back on my life, I've been now with my wife for coming up on 8 years. We got married last year, but we've been together for 8 years, and we've been together on this conscious growth path. Both of us are deeply rooted in the work, and I cannot say that how incredibly supporting it is for me in the way that I live my life, to know that I have a woman who I am deeply aligned with, and who does these practices herself, and who understands this language, and who just gets it. And that has taken away so much time out of my mind. I used to be, the typical kind of hunter. I would be out and about chasing the girls because it would give me a big sense of validation. And I had this conversation with my wife the other day. I recognized that there's still a part of me that seeks that validation from women. It's like, and when I don't get it, then I'm like, oh, there's a lowering that I've experienced. Obviously, it's not to the degree that it used to be, but it's still there. I can see it. I can recognize it. And I think when it comes to being an entrepreneur, the key to success, obviously there are many kinds of keys, but I think one of the major keys is consistency and is patience. You have to keep showing up again and again and again and again. And so it just makes so much sense that what you're saying, that everything that takes you away from being consistent, patient, is something that is worth investing time, money, and energy into finding out how can I reduce it or completely eliminate it from my life. So I love that. And also, you keep sprinkling breathing here and there into the conversation. I know we briefly touched on it in the beginning, so I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience with breath work, and what are you doing with it today? Because now I understand you also facilitate and you help people with breath work.
That's correct. And before we tap into breathwork, just to comment on what you just said, is that I truly believe and know that when a woman of divine feminism steps into your life, that is a gift from God, and that is
Oh,
that
man.
you've done the work, and
Amen.
God bless you with a sacred woman, and all you need is one woman, and you have to cherish that woman with all your heart, and because that woman's going to support you, align with your vision, and it's the most beautiful thing that can happen to a man. And so I encourage all men listening to this, is that when you get to a higher level of consciousness, this is the type of woman you want to attract, not a woman that is chasing a bunch of materialism or chasing parties or getting drunk with you. That is not the woman you want. You want a woman that can elevate you and help you become the man, the masculine divine man that you're meant to be. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
plug that
Yeah.
in.
Amen to that. She will love to hear that.
Yes, cherish her. Yeah, we can talk about breath work. The breath is when we can just take a breath, right? Like a slow breath, like inhale for 5 seconds, exhale. We just took a quick breath, and just like not a quick breath, but a slow breath. And so when we have these shallow breath, we don't understand that we can take this slow breath. And I teach even like my sales team, and we've done a Zoom holotropic session. We start off the meeting, with a slow breath. And if we can slow down our breath to 5 second inhale, 5 second exhale, it will create this heart mind coherence breath that will remove all anxiety or worries, because it taps into spirit. And so if we can do that for a minute or two, you're doing basically 6 breaths in a minute. And it can just, this is a tool that, I recommend for everyone to try. and just do it for 2-3 minutes, and you'll see like your vibrational state has shifted and you're more calmer and whatnot. And so I got introduced to breath work through a mastermind. And Andre, that runs this podcast called Know Thyself. So I was
Mm.
called to join this mastermind. It was just like spirits, like, yeah, this is for you. And so I joined his 8-week mastermind actually a year ago in January. And I didn't even know he was gonna guide the group. It was like maybe 7 of us, and he's like, just get a yoga mat, get some pillows, and get comfortable, get some water, and we're gonna do some deep breath work. And I didn't research it. I had no idea, and I ended up doing this holotropic breath work. It was invented by I don't want to butcher this, so holotropic breathwork, founded by Stanley Sloff Groff and Christina Groff, a couple that was big into psychotherapy, and they were studying the profound effects of LSD in the 70s. And so when the substance got banned, they started to ask themselves, could we get people into this blissful state without the substance, without LSD? And they started researching, breath work. And this has been around for thousands of years, guys. I mean, the Hindu religion, if you trace that in the yoga, they've been doing this for a long time. So nothing's being reinvented, but rediscovered in a modern way. And so they brought this deep holotropic breath work where you breathe through the mouth and you release through the mouth. So it's something like and there's levels to it. And I introduced a 3-part breath into this, and their holotropic breath work would last for 5 to 6 hours, and it's pretty intense. You know,
5 to 6 hours.
yes, that's the original holotropic, 5 to 6 hours.
Holy
And
shit.
they would find their patients go into altered states of consciousness and go into this blissful state where the body would release emotional trauma naturally throughout the body. And so we did this for 60 minutes on a Zoom call, and um, around 40 minutes, my body started locking up, tingling. I couldn't move my arms. It went into like crocodile arms, and like I started laughing so hard, um, in blissful joy. And I got to this state that I've only been able to reach like before using a molecule called DMT, and and it was so incredible. And when I reached this level of consciousness, of peace, joy, just like unity consciousness, I was profound. I was like, how is this even possible without any substances? And I knew like I wanted to dive deeper into this practice and learn how this is even possible. Because at that point, I had done a lot of the healing, the trauma. I've done a lot of work, I would say, and so my experience wasn't really releasing any trauma or having like tears, because you could have that. You could go deep within, and you could have really amazing breakthroughs. It also can activate your pineal gland. And so I focus on the DMT release. And that's why I mentioned the DMT molecule. It's not something I would recommend. But if you get to a certain level of consciousness, you'll realize DMT is within us. It's in our lungs, it's in our brain, it's in our pineal. So when you do the holotropic, and when you get to surrender, there's a moment of surrender, and you keep doing the work even though it's hard. It will activate your pineal, and you will have a DMT release. And this is not guaranteed, but in my when I facilitate, I would say 8 out of 10 people will have that DMT release happen. And when that happens, you will go into an altered state of consciousness, and you will feel so blissful and so much peace and love in your vibration. It's a beautiful practice. So I studied it and got my certification, and I ended up doing my first retreat at Yoko Village at my friend's center, and we had a beautiful experience in Costa Rica. And I was really it was very nerve-wracking to hold this container. In the beginning, I was like, what's gonna happen? Like, where's my scripts? And like because during the certification you get scripts and sounds, and I created this beautiful soundtrack from scratch, and I tapped into my artistry that I never thought I even had. And so it was a very divine creative process to create this 60-minute
Mhm.
experience, followed by another 60-minute sound bath. I paired up with a beautiful soul in Costa Rica, and she did the sound bath, and I ended up doing a guided meditation through the sound bath, because I believe that when you do deep breath work, you need some down regulation. You can't take them from that DMT release and say, okay, namaste or have a good day. Like, you want some
Peace
down
out.
regulation. Exactly. So
Mhm.
I introduced process, if you saw from Awaken with Om, is that it's the breath, it's movement. So we open up with Qigong, which I've trained with Montauk Chiak, and a few other beautiful trainers. And so we do qigong for 30 minutes, and then we lie down into the space, open up the space. I have a ceremonial way to open it up, and
Mhm.
then to protect the container, right? So it's truly a sacred container that I facilitate, and then we end up doing the sound bath. So it's movement, breath, and sound. And so that's what you saw on
Mhm.
the website. It's a trifecta combination, and I've just been really fascinated with the work, and I love doing, you know, breath work, on a daily basis as well. Whether it's that slow breath that we kind of taught the audience, but deep breath, like, if you are in a state where you want to feel good about yourself, you want to connect back with spirit, I highly encourage, when you wake up, stretch your body for a few minutes, and then just do 4 rounds, 3 to 4 rounds of 9 deep breath. So just standing up, like outside in nature, do that, and I promise you, you'll feel that vibration hit your entire body. You'll feel your mind completely clear from all the negative patterns or thoughts. Um, and this is a beautiful tool, just that you can do, and it only takes like 10 minutes.
I love that. And you blew me away with when you said 5 to 6 hour breath work, because obviously I've done a lot of this breath work, and I'm imagining 5 to 6 hours. I mean, I can't even fathom what that would be like. I did the longest meditation that I've ever done was last year in August at the Dr. Joe Dispenser retreat, which was a little bit
Beautiful.
over four hours. And going into that, my thought process was like, I'm never gonna make it. My back's gonna kill me. I will have to. My bladder is going to explode. Like all kinds of things. As I went into the experience, and he did also some breath work. It wasn't very long, but there were intervals. And I, just like you said, I had a full-on DMT experience, and and I know this because I've done DMT before in ayahuasca and mushrooms and pure DMT experiences, and it was just incredible because I went in with doubt. It's like, yeah, people keep saying that you can do it, but like, I mean, there must be a big difference. And then I've experienced it, and it was profound. Is the only word that I can really use to describe it, but even that doesn't do it justice. And what I love about what you just shared is that breath work is accessible to any human being on planet Earth. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter if you're injured. There are degrees, obviously, to how deep you can go with this, but I use it for everything now, every single client. And when you started the conversation about breath, where you did, let's take a breath in for 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, one breath. I
One
mean,
breath.
the
That's all we did.
difference it makes. And I like to always bring up this idea that as entrepreneurs, what it really comes down to for us is the quality of our decisions. It doesn't matter. You can have the best coach in the world, you can have the best mentors, you can have $10 billion in the bank account, but if you do not consistently make quality decisions, you're going to create just a lot of failure, just a lot of resistance, pain, suffering. And so the difference between that is literally one breath, because one
That's
breath
great.
allows you to step away and say, just wait a moment, just just cut whatever thought was running through, and then you could reapproach and you can actually say, is this decision going to be in the highest interest of everybody involved? Is this the most effective decision that I can make? And oftentimes the answer is no. So then you want to readdress, and you can just take another breath. And so I love the simplicity of this technology that you bring forward. Also, when you talk about qigong, I have done qigong a little bit. I've done it for like a couple months consistently. Then right now I'm not doing it, but I got to say it's really awesome. I mean, even that breath that you do, like I've done it when I'm in I remember a couple months ago, I had this intense feeling of frustration and anger coming up. And I
Mm,
had 5 minutes to my next client call. And I was
mm,
like, you're going to clear this now. So what do? I went, ha, ha, and just did like, I don't know how many rounds I did, but as I did it, I could feel how that frustration and that density was just leaving me. And I would sit
yes.
down and it's like, oh, just feel like just cleared that all out. So I love that. Now, I also
Great for clearing.
want to get your perspective on awaken, right? Awaken with You talked a little bit about it
Mhm.
with me, and you said that you developed a new program, a new tool actually, which you showed me. So I'd love for you to show it to our audience. He's developed this really cool sleeping mask that's just full of other gadgets. So if you could speak into that a little bit, that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we burst, this idea, and I would say the number one thing that anyone can do for their well-being is actually sleep. Like it's the
Mm.
number one thing. And people, we neglect that. And once you bring awareness to that, that if you sleep deep, like when my 3-year-old, when she sleeps deep in the night, she wakes up with more joy, more laughter, like ready to go. Like versus, if she lacks sleep, she will be cranky, right? Frustrated. And so think about that for a minute, right? Like this is the healing process too. We had a long
Mhm.
day, we need that deep sleep. So I was frustrated with all the stuff in the market. And I woke up at 4 in the morning, my YouTube, I was streaming rain sounds and it was playing a freaking ad. And I was so annoyed. And then my ear had this like earplug, one was falling out. I had construction earplugs because sometimes, whether it's my partner or I just want to drown out the noise, I use
Yeah.
earplugs. And then I have a mask, but my mask was leaking because it was like sideways and it wasn't the perfect fit. And that's when the idea was born. And it was like,
Yeah.
all right, like I got to do something about this. And I wanted to combine all three into one beautiful nature solfeggio frequencies for deep sleep, being able to access those nature sounds. Two is being able to get complete 100% blackout and not crushing my ears with the competitor, sleep mask. It just kind of bends your ears. So I have this patent pending invention to take, when you like hug those Bose headphones, right? So comfortable, so cozy. That's what we created. A zero pressure ear design, zero pressure eyes. So you can blink your eyes with the mask because I use this mask for meditation as well. And if you pre-order now, we're shipping in April. This has been featured on CES in just a few weeks ago. And you can get our Awaken app for a lifetime, only for pre-order customers. And why we wanted to develop this Awaken app is that not only it will give you access to beautiful soundscapes for sleeping, but two is meditation. Beautiful guides. If you're new to meditation, this can replace your Calm or Headspace because we'll have a freemium version. And for anyone that orders a Om sleep mask, they'll get lifetime access to this. And third, Mario, is breathwork. We're introducing breathwork. So this is my way to introduce breathwork to the world because all you got to do is buy a sleeping mask and you're going to get introduced to deep sleep, you know, meditation, and breath work all in one. So this is the mask. And if you have Wi-Fi or 5G phones around your bedroom, what this is optional, by the way, but a lot of people don't understand that there are harmful frequencies radiating from these phones and Wi-Fi devices. Like perfect example is like the iPhone 14 getting banned from France because it didn't meet the regulatory compliance for the EMF radiation coming out. So we
What
partnered with
about
a
the 15?
yeah, I think all of them radiate a certain amount of frequency. There's not enough history to understand the
Right.
long-term negative effects, but it's like cigarettes, right? Like we didn't know that cigarettes were harmful as until like the 90s or whatnot in the 70s and 80s. Like you can run commercials and
Hmm.
people thought it was a cool lifestyle, but like and you can smoke on planes or offices, right? Remember those days? Like so I think the world will catch up in 10 years from like, whoa, like we have too many gadgets and devices around us. So I do believe in this technology. This is nanotech. It's got 22 patents. The company is called Airtec, and we've have exclusive partnership with Airtec, and we've created a little slot behind the third eye, behind our BT device, and it just slides in there. And this is
Nice.
a LifeTune Go. This is $220 on Airtec website, but it ships with all our gold edition. Is it silver edition too, Jin, or just gold? The Airtec gold. So if you get a gold edition, you can add in that optional Airtec chip to protect you from the EMF radiation, and it's battery less. It uses nanotechnology. But check this out, Mario. You're gonna like this. This microprocessor that you see in the middle, you see
Hmm.
the little hologram. You
Yeah.
can see
Yeah.
it has 83,251 circles nano etched into the microprocessor, and it has
Damn.
16 fractals. And when this gets booted up, these resistors, the gold resistors all around the chip, gets booted from the electronic devices around you. So when that happens, the microprocessor boots up and creates a hologram around you, and it protects you because it doesn't block the EMF from working, it transmutes it to a harmonic frequency that your
Right.
body is able to consume versus that red radiation that would emit. So
Yeah.
this is the Om Sleep Mask. Right now we're doing 30% off, so I highly recommend grabbing one. And we have multiple models and versions, but let me go ahead and put this on. It's a nice tug fit. It's the perfect fit. We it took 18 months to develop this product. Um,
Oh man, that looks next level. I love it.
and it's so like meditation, breath work, and sleeping. You can use it for travel, right? It's
Yeah.
great on airplanes, and it's dual layer. This is antibacterial, and you can detach this complete thing, unplug
Yeah.
it, and just throw this in the washer whenever
Huh.
you feel like it. So
Huh. So
yeah,
where
and we
where
have
can we find
multiple
this?
omsleep dot co, omsleep.co.
.com. Okay, great. I'm going to add that link in the show notes. What a great invention. I mean, I feel I'm so blessed and privileged where I'm at with the work that I do and with the people that I get to speak with because I never lose hope. Like when people, there's a war happening there and there's another pandemic here and there's another thing there and 10 people killed there and I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. And I just don't have it in me anymore to lose hope because I get to speak to people like you all the time. And, like, I'm like, fuck, this is so cool. I mean, wow, this brings together so many modalities, and I love that you are so active in the entrepreneurial and men's community and bringing so much healing to that space. Now, as we come to the end of the conversation, I do have one more question that I'm really curious how you're going to answer that question. If you could spend an hour of your time with any person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I think that's an easy question for me. I would spend that hour with Master Yeshua, also known as Jesus Christ. And the reason why is, um, he is the perfect man that God sent. And a lot of his teachings are lost. So a lot of people that are listening are like, what, Yeshua? Well, that's his real name. That's his Aramaic name. And a lot of Christians don't even know that. So
Mm.
I would spend my hour with him because he's changed my life. And it's just, yeah, that's and the reason I would spend with the time with him is to um just be in his presence, would be just like, wow, beyond words.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I have picked the same person. What's one of your favorite teachings that came from Yeshua that you find profound application in your life?
Whew. There's so many. I would say the one that just comes down right now is that the kingdom of heaven is within you. and
Mm.
and there's so many layers to this, that we can unwrap and discuss, but it's so profound. And so if I can break this down in just simple modern terminology, I would say that we constantly react to the world, and we are programmed by society of who we need to be. And and when we can liberate from that and understand that the outer world is created by your inner world, the way
Mm.
you're thinking, the decisions you're making, the actions you are doing on a daily basis is creating the version of you that's being expressed in the world. So if you want to unshackle from that, to liberate from that, to find your authentic self, your higher self, you have to drown out the noise. You have to drop all limiting beliefs and know that it wasn't your fault, that you were conditioned, you were programmed from society. And so that to understand the kingdom of heaven is within you, is the treasures within you. And that's the true work that every man should seek, is to go within. And once I realized that, my whole world changed, and it's constantly changing even now, because I'm more devoted to going within, not seeking outside. And so when I do the work in my inner world, my outer world starts blossoming and shifting into levels that I never thought was even possible.
Mm. What a way to conclude this podcast. How beautiful the words that you just shared. My friend Terry, what's the best way that people can connect with you and ask you questions about what you're up to in the world?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out is, just probably follow me on IG. It's more like a vlog, a diary. I'm at Project Kim, so at Project Kim, and you can follow me there, and yeah, we can connect there.
Awesome. I will be sure to also link that profile in the show notes. Mr. Terry Kim, thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, and the space here with me today, and for blessing us with so much wisdom and so many insights. And I hope this won't be the last conversation that we had.
Beautiful, brother. It was a pleasure being on the show. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you, my friend, for being a loyal listener of the Zenpreneur podcast. And I will see you on the next episode.